Welcome to the third day of RevEx Fest. We're past midway through this day. We still have two more sessions. Um, but today's event and RevEx Fest is brought to you by the team at Modern Sales Pros. For those of you not familiar with MSP, we are the world's largest and highest quality community for those in sales management, sales leadership, sales and revenue operations, and sales enablement, aka our Modern Sales Pros. And our mission is to create an environment for our members to answer the toughest revenue questions out there. That's why we brought those specialists here today to answer all your questions. But we do not work alone. We have amazing sponsors, and the summit will not be possible without these fantastic companies that you see here on this slide. Thank you so much for making RevEx Fest happen. And to learn more about these innovative companies, click on the Sponsors Booth tab at the top of this event page. And while you're there, you can also check our jam-packed agenda. We had 26 events. We have this one and two more, so we had 23 events past, and three more to go. You can find the recordings in there. You can see if you missed anything important, and I'm pretty sure you did because we have more than 50 speakers. That's a lot of knowledge for you to learn from. Um, but let's focus on this session here right now. I'm going to do some housekeeping notes. It's going to be really quick, and then I'm going to pass it to Will. Will is going to be our moderator today. Thank you, Will. And then Will introduce himself and the panelists, and then start this conversation that I'm pretty sure everyone is so excited about. So, as far as housekeeping notes go, familiarize yourself with GoCast. This is a great platform for you to meet new people. So you can use the chat, use the Q&A, use the messages, find out more information about our sponsors and our panelists up there. You can find some gifts and some ungated resources for you in the sponsors both. But that's enough from me. Now I know the audience wants to hear from my panelists, and that's why they came here. So, Will, I'm going to pass it to you. You can introduce yourself, ask the panelists to introduce themselves, and then I'll be back for some outro. Does that sound good?
Yep, that sounds great. Thank you, guys. Super excited to be here.
All
We
right,
got
Will,
some.
you can take it from here.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me? I just got notified that my internet connection's bad. Oh, man. All right, there might be a little lag here. So, yeah, we're really excited. We got three amazing sales leaders that we're going to interview today. What the focus of today is really talking about those early stage sales management roles where you're maybe have 1 to 2 reps, or maybe you are the rep and you're really getting in the weeds early stage. There's a lot of challenges that come with this. So you're either creating a brand new category, right? You're bringing a product to market that hasn't been sold before. You are building the plane as you fly it. So you're trying to figure out what resonates with customers. You're being asked how to generate predictable revenue. So how do we start getting every rep closing 40K of ARR a month or 50K of ARR a month? And you're like, I'm just trying to get a deal in. And then, you've got these new bright-eyed, bushy-tailed reps looking at you like, teach me how to do this. How do I be successful? How do I make money, et cetera? So a lot gets asked of us as early stage sales leaders. We're expected to be sort of process engineers that can figure out systems that scale, but also, be therapists and sort of have a crystal ball of like, what are we going to close this month? And it's kind of why we do it. It's why we love it, but it's also comes with a lot of challenges. So really excited for this panel today, just because we're going to get some insight from people that have been there, done that, of really what to prioritize, because that's the biggest challenge with all this is we've got a lot getting thrown at us and we've got to put one foot in front of the other. So we are going to hopefully help everyone on this call figure out what's most important to get done first when you're in that phase of you're the first seller or you're ramping, the first 1 to 2 sellers. So it's going to be fun. Feel free to throw questions in the chat and we'll answer those live. And what we'll start with is intros. So I'm gonna kick us off and then we'll go around. So Will Ibsen, VP of Sales at Maxio, as you can see on the screen there. So Maxio automates all the manual processes that come with billing and subscription management. And of course, my light goes out. We at Maxio try to save money apparently with motion sensor. 2022, you know, the economy is rough right now. So anyways, we automate all the manual processes as it relates to billing and automating go-to-market models, whether that's self-service sign up, or you've got a sales team that sells deals and you need a billing engine and a reporting engine, as opposed to using spreadsheets and manual processes. So we've got a team of 20 AEs, 7 sales engineers, and 13 BDRs over here at Maxio. So we'll go around the table here. Let's do title, what you do, and how your sales org is structured. Mallory, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Mallory Miranda. I'm the VP of Sales at WorkRamp. So WorkRamp, many of you might be familiar with it. We're a learning management system. So we really help revenue leaders, HR leaders invest in learning as a way to really drive business outcomes within the organization, whether that's through onboarding, continuous learning and development, et cetera. And so my org within the sales team is a team of around 30 account executives and their leadership team, as well as solutions engineering and their leadership sits under me, as well as sales enablement.
Love it. Awesome. We'll hear from Mallory on how to get that enablement piece dialed, especially early stage here. Sam, what about you?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Sam. I am the Director of Sales at QuotaPath. I was sales hire number 1 at QuotaPath as well. So QuotaPath, what we do is we automate the commissions process from end to end, being able to take folks out of spreadsheets, really eliminate that manual process, and being able to pay reps more efficiently on time and give better visibility to the sales reps on what they're earning. We also help with comp plan strategy and modeling. We actually just this month launched an initiative called Comp Hub to help with modeling comp plans for 2023, being able to look at like the most trusted comp plans out on the market and putting together the right incentivized plan for your reps that is going to motivate the behavior that you're looking to achieve essentially. Our team right now, we have 2 BDRs, 6 new biz sales reps, 6 people on the onboarding and customer success team, and then about 5 account managers helping with growth throughout the organization. And then we also have 1 solutions consultant.
Yeah, QuotaPath is an amazing product. We use it internally, and my reps are like, we went from being blind to being able to see as far as our comp plans and how it gets calculated. So big lift there, and our tool actually integrates with.
And we use Maxio as well, which we love.
That's how we are. It's software just keeps getting smaller and smaller, right? So yeah, very cool stuff. Thanks, Sam. David, what about you, sir?
What's up, everyone? My name is David Reed. I'm a senior director here at Sales Intel. Super excited to share some of our insights with you guys today, and some of the mistakes that we might have made earlier on in life, and hopefully save you guys all on the webinar here today from making those rather painful, sometimes extremely painful mistakes. Great. So a little bit of background about Sales Intel. We are a B2B data provider. So we actually have our unique differentiator is that we have human verified contacts, mobile numbers, and email addresses. We have a 1,900 person research team that goes in and actually physically calls a number to make sure that when you make a call, it actually connects with the right person. And we've human verified a little over 8 million records. We've got about 100 million in our system. And so we help you guys connect with the right people at the right time. Really awesome platform, and super excited to share with you guys. My background here, part of the reason why I thought it might be valuable is I was previously hire number 3. I was the first salesperson at my previous organization, scaled up, was VP of sales when I left, scaled up to, we had 100 plus employees. So started at the very ground floor, built out a lot of our systems and processes, and following kind of the same process here. We're at 16 AEs right now. We got a couple in seat and hire. and then I want to say close to 30 BDRs, but I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, how many we have.
Wow.
Love it. So yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to go around the table on, is just like, what was that early stage experience look like? So I'll come back to you, David, but so like, for example, I was sales hire number 2 at Maxio in the early days, and just curious to hear some of the war stories that we've all been through, right? I know, like, for example, the first deal that I sold, I had to call the customer afterwards and basically ask her, why did you buy my software at all? Like, I had the ROI piece of it figured out, but I didn't really even know, like, why would you take a chance on such a small software company? And so, like, even having to have those conversations is a little bit shocking sometimes, that you have a signed contract and you still have to ask, why did you even buy? But so let's go around on that. So David, any war stories you can share from those early days? What was the name of the company where you were first sales hire?
Company that I was there was Surefire Local. It was a all-in-one marketing platform sold to SMB. A lot of wonderful challenges, like starting in an office shared with 3 other people, using Infusionsoft or Confusionsoft, as some people, as my CRM back in the day, like literally having sticky notes, like, of all of my deals to try and keep track of everything. So just a lot of, mistakes that were made along the path. Learned some really great lessons. Happy to share specifics, but honestly, there's probably too many for me to just narrow down 1 or 2.
Not all of them you want recorded on a webinar. Probably.
Yeah, definitely not.
So Sam, you were the first hire at QuotaPath, right? First sales hire.
Yes.
Give us some good war stories from the early days.
Yeah. So really funny that, like, when I first started at QuotaPath, we had just launched our paid software. So we were just going to market. At that time, we had a bunch of free users. So our software is, you can sign up as a individual user, and then, really the idea is, like, you sell it up to your director, you get your RevOps people involved to want to start using QuotaPath when you're an individual contributor. So, to try to build credibility, we had a bunch of logos of folks that were using our platform for free, like on our website, just promoting, like, hey, we have sales reps from XYZ company. And one of the companies, they saw their logo, and, like, they had no idea, that their sales reps were even using QuotaPath, and they're like, hey, why is our logo on your website? Like, we don't pay you anything, we're not a customer, like, cease and desist. And so that was like, oh wow, okay, like, we're a real company now, we're really trying to sell this product. So yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. We've all done that play, and not all of us get caught, but you guys
yeah.
Oh, that's a great one. I love it. So Mallory, tell us about your early stage experience. I don't think it was at WorkRamp. It was somewhere, right? So
no, early in my career, I was one of the first sales hires at RelateIQ. We were later acquired by Salesforce, which is great, but we were a small business CRM company. So I remember early on, our marketing team decided to test, like, Facebook ads. And so what we really prided ourselves on was, like, there was an AI component to the CRM. And so the tagline on the Facebook ads, it was pushing people to a trial sign up, and it was relationship intelligence, not customer relationship intelligence, relationship intelligence. So we get flooded with inbound leads. We're like, this is amazing. We have so many trial signups. The SDRs are picking up the phones, and very soon realized that, like, 85% of these leads thought they were signing up for some dating app or something about.
Love it. Awesome.
We even saw where that one was going.
And then you guys created Tinder from there. Is that how Tinder started?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were really the first idea. So lesson learned, probably should require a business email to sign up for a trial, and have someone else look over your marketing copy, like an outsider's perspective.
Oh, that is awesome. And I'm sure they loved receiving those cold calls, because they're like, this app is great. Like, I'm already
great. Personalized. Yeah.
I
have my own concierge.
Oh, that's so funny. I love it. Okay, cool. So I think one theme that correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we all four of us on this call started out as individual contributors and moved into more of a management role. I think we would all agree that like that's kind of an easy 101 as far as if you're a CEO thinking about paying your utility bill, you should pay it. If you're a CEO thinking about how to hand off your sales team, it's really ideal that you start with, instead of hiring a manager and immediately having that manager hire a bunch of reps, have the manager do the IC role first. I mean, all four of us on this call did that. Is there any additional points that you guys would add to that as far as how that enabled you to be successful as managers and scale the team, and how that gave you credibility with your reps?
I can chime in here. I think one thing, so funny enough, when I did one of these webinars with Modern Sales Pros like 2 weeks ago, someone reached out to me and asked this exact question. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like I had a sit down like one-on-one with her and kind of talk through. And I think the other thing is really helping to nail down the strategy that you're going to go to market. At my previous org, we did channel partnerships. And so we had vendors that opened up that door. That made it incredibly efficient for us as a sales team to scale the organization. And so I think really taking some time to figure out, like whether you work with a consultant, whether you are a CEO or a founder that understands enough of the sales methodology and process to kind of figure that out. But understanding the direction you're going to go should give you some guidance on how we look at our hiring plan and our hiring path moving forward.
Yep. Agreed.
I think so much of your first hire is also, I mean, like you said, Will, it's building credibility when they eventually build out a team, because they've been in the trenches, they've been in the field. It's much more tactical versus theory, the coaching that they're giving. Yeah. I'd say one thing that I think a lot about is expectation setting and title setting for that role, because you want to incentivize someone, right? So there's a tendency to give them kind of that high title as an incentive to be your first sales hire. But sometimes that bites you in the butt when you're going to layer that person. And I think that we need to maybe talk about that a little bit more. And so what I've really been a believer of is setting clear expectations that like, you're going to be in this IC role. We will move you into a management role. Your goal is to build out a team, but you won't always be reporting to the CEO. There will be someone who we're planning to hire there, and setting that expectation up front. I think, unless that's not the plan and you do want them reporting to the CEO for a long time, but I think having those clear expectations can lead for happiness and actually better growth opportunities in the future for that person, because they have a clear path and milestones that they know they need to hit.
Well, and you know what to expect of them because you've either done that or not done that. So
right.
If you've done it and they're not doing it, you know that they probably have a performance issue. If you're asking them to do something that you've never done and they are able to do it, you found an amazing hire, or maybe you're asking them to do something that is impossible. And if you haven't done the role, you just don't know what's possible or not. So.
Yeah, Mally, I mean, I think that's actually really, really, like, that's a great piece of advice. This didn't happen to me personally, but I have an old colleague I used to work with who got hired on first sales hire. She had like VP of sales on her title and on LinkedIn. And then, it turns out they really wanted her to be more of like a manager, like an individual contributor into manager. And they ended up bringing on a VP of sales later on. And it created a lot of friction for her, and to the point where she actually ended up exiting the company. So I really think setting those expectations from the get-go, that is going to set you up for success.
What does the role actually entail?
Yeah.
Right.
It's good. Yeah. Love it. Okay, so Mallory is in the enablement space. WorkRamp is a really powerful enablement tool. So, Mallory, what are your thoughts on? So, let's just say, for example, you've done the role, you've nailed down a couple of customers, you understand the sales process to some degree. So, it's time to make that first sales hire. What are the key attributes that you really need in that first hit sales hire to look for? that maybe you don't need in hire number 4 and 5 and 6, but like hire number 1, you got to have it.
Right. So I think there's obviously the table stakes. So, you need to have someone competitive, you need a self-starter, you need someone very money motivated. I think that one of the things that you want to iterate maybe more heavily on is that collaborative aspect, which seems counterintuitive. They're your first sales hire. They don't need to collaborate. They're the only AE. Incorrect. They actually need to collaborate with every single other person at the organization. And so I always like to ask people in an interview, tell me about your favorite deal that you've won. Do they just talk about themselves, or do they talk about how they brought in other stakeholders? Right? Like, you need to be able to win as a team. If you're the first sales hire and you're losing deals alone, no, I want you to have brought in the head of engineering to talk through the roadmap, right? So someone who's able to leverage those like executive resources effectively. And then I would say the other thing is just a huge focus on doing right by the customer. So with that same question, tell me about your favorite deal you won. Are they talking about the customer? Are they saying what industry they're in, who their champion was? Do they actually get to know their customer? Because in the beginning, it's huge relationship building. You're going to get business based on referrals. So that first AE needs to be able to foster really great customer relationships to get those additional referrals and that additional revenue. And so are they able to do that? I think that's great for any AE, but especially when looking at your first sales hire, you want them to have that strong customer focus and that collaborative spirit.
Totally agree, because the product is not fully baked, obviously, if we're this early. So yeah, you need to be collaborative. You also need to take care of the customer, because there's going to be those conversations of like, we're not going to get you the goal line, but we can get you the 5-yard line because the roadmap, it hasn't been delivered yet in whatever area. And so yeah, expectation setting is super important. Sam, David, anything else you would add as far as attributes you have to have in that first hire that maybe you don't need in later hires?
For me, I look for someone that has swimmed in kind of a similar lane before. If I can, like that always makes me feel really comfortable with that first hire. It's, again, not always I literally, before I got into my role, I was selling furniture and then I went to SaaS. So like, it doesn't always work out that way. But I think that to me is like having someone that understands the motions of what they're going to have to do, the consistency of, if it's, I've made the mistake before of bringing on enterprise roles because, hey, they've got this great motion, but I'm an SMB. That's or mid-market, much more transactional. I need a lot more intensity. I need a lot more urgency to drive those deals, as opposed to that enterprise that might be slightly more relationship oriented. So I think for me, it's understanding like, have they swum in a similar lane before? And do I feel comfortable that we're going to be able to make that transition if they haven't?
What do you think made you successful, David? Just like, how did you switch from selling furniture, from selling fast to SaaS?
Yeah. So like that. I sold on personality for like the first 5 or 6 years. So it was straight personality and persistence, like no sales training, no education, just hammering the phones. And I was just like militant. That's really what it was. My CEO, who I worked directly under, was phenomenal, gave me a lot of great guidance, and like, it was a lot of tough love. Like most salespeople, I would say probably most salespeople in today's day, like probably wouldn't handle the feedback that I got. But that feedback made me such a strong salesperson and a leader eventually. And so I think it was really persistence and work ethic that really drove me for a long time.
It could just be the care factor. I feel like that matters so much. And I know that's super intangible, but like, if you're bought into the vision of the company, then you care a lot. Like, you care about the product, the customers, the success of the company. And a lot of times that can fill some of the skill gaps. Sam, were you going to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously like being motivated about the product and like the direction that the company is going, like that's and like being able to read that passion. from the person, like that is super important.
Yeah.
You know, what I was gonna even, it's gonna be more of a question for the wider team, but like as first sales hires for like all of us, did you know, did you already have like a back end connection to the company that you were going to work for? Because that's something that we always look at is like, you know, have you worked with this person before, or do you know someone that's worked with this person before? Because then you can really like back channel and understand, like, you know, what is this person's motivation? Like, you know, I know that I work well with them. I will say, like, our founder AJ, he's a second time founder. I worked for him before at Turnkite. I got introduced to him when I worked at Turnkite from a previous manager that had worked with him before at his previous company. So it all kind of like, you know, gets intertwined. So I really think, you know, when you're thinking about those foundational first hires, you're like looking in your networks for folks that you worked with before.
Totally. Yeah, it's a great point. There's got to be that trust element helps fix the wheels a lot when all the unknowns of startups get thrown at you. The trust element's there's typically a much better result. Love it. So question for you, Mallory. So like, let's say you find that perfect salesperson, right? They've got those attributes that we've talked about. What do the first 2 months look like as far as getting them up to speed as quickly as possible on the product, and also the buyer, like what language the buyer uses, the pain points that they experience, why they would even care about your product? What would you prioritize in those first 2 months?
Right. I think that's exactly it. So it's being able to understand your buyer first and foremost, which go to some of the conferences that they're going to, understand what they are, offer, you know, $100 gift cards to survey people with that persona, like get to know what's important to them. That's crucial. Read your competitors' case studies. What's the ROI they're referencing there?
Good.
And then I would say that the second piece is really documenting what does success look like in the sales process. So iterating, I think at that point you have an idea of what the sales process should look like, but iterating based on that and documenting everything, right? Like what happened, what went well, what are we not doing again, where were friction points? And then from there, you can take all of that and eventually, once you're growing out the team, put that into an LMS. Once you have someone in enablement, they can bring that together, put that into onboarding for new hires. But creating a repeatable motion is so crucial, and you can't do that unless you're documenting everything that you're doing. So figuring out like what are the processes that you need, where does it break down, and then like documenting all of that. That's key.
Could I chime in there for one? So I am such a firm believer of what you just said there, Mallory, in terms of like documenting things. I actually coach my AEs on this and say, hey guys, you think of every interaction, the companies that you talk to, the organizations that you work for, you want to be studying what works exceptionally well and start to create your own processes. Think of it as the David Reed franchise system of sales. And you want to keep building on that and keep refining that. That is what, at the end of the day, is going to make you, you know, hundreds of thousands or potentially millions of dollars if you get positioned at the right company. It's going to take time, of course, right? We got to take time to kind of organize all that stuff. But that is the value, is outlining and documenting those processes. So to your point, you can create that repeatable process.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, love it. Some fire getting thrown out today. Oh, Sam, anything you'd add as far as what should enablement look like? I know what's funny about this is we probably didn't get much enablement as the first hire. It's more like you just figure it out. I was given like a login to the app and the help documentation,
Right.
go sell. So, like they probably will make it without this level, but still, if there's any kind of backbone that you can give them to where they go from saying like, I don't understand this product or this buyer, to being like, I'm going to crush this call. Like that backbone element of getting them confident in their pitch, in the product, and handling objections can really, you know, it speed up their success. Anything, Sam, that you'd add to that?
Yeah, honestly, like I think the best way to run a demo is to like not even have to show the product at all, right? Like you should just be able to have a conversation with whoever your you're talking to, right? Like really understand their pain points, like do that discovery, be able to talk high level about what your product does and get them so bought into the fact that like when you actually show the product, like you've already covered all of the key pieces of things that they want to see. And now you're just like, okay, remember when I talked about this? Like, here it is. But yeah, I think like, not I think a lot of people dive into like, oh, you have to be a product expert, you have to know XYZ, you have to know every single thing about what our product does, and it's like that's not really the case. Like for your first few sales conversations, it should really be you listening, you understanding your customer, understanding like what they need, and then being able to give high level like I guess like excerpts about what your product does and how it can help them.
Yeah,
Right.
agreed. The only 2 points I would add to that is I think it is really important to have some one pager that goes over your buyer. What are they measured on? What does success look like? What allows them to get a bonus at the end of the year?
Right.
What are they worried about? Those are the really key questions that every sales rep should be able to answer. And if you can hand them that on day one, they're already a huge step ahead. And then bonus points, if you had like some call recording software where they can actually watch the prospect or your buyer telling you those things of like, yeah, I'm worried about this, or I'm excited about this, or I have this coming up and I have to get it done by X date. Like when you can see video of that happening, all of a sudden you become a lot more confident of like, okay, I can do this. I can talk that language. One question that just that brought up was enablement. When should you bring on a full-time enablement role? And I'm sure like all of our opinions is like as soon as possible, but like, do you guys have any metrics or benchmarks where you'd say when you reach this threshold, this is probably when you should bring on an enablement team?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is it depends on so many factors. I would say think about the rate at which you're hiring. That to me is the most important metric. Less so how many sales reps do you have, and more so what is the rate that you're hiring at. So if you are looking to double your team in a pretty short amount of time, you need enablement.
Yeah.
Good luck doing that alone. I've done it. It's horrible. So think about like, how, what are the hiring goals? And when you reach a point where if you're starting to onboard people every month, that's a sign you probably need an enablement function. And keep in mind too, enablement's it's not a cheap role to hire for, right? So keep in mind that when looking for budget for someone in enablement, you can really position this role almost as also product marketing. So you can get really clever and have this person sit between orgs, that this is not only someone who's going to enable and train your team, but this is also someone who's going to help with product feature releases, help with one-pagers, customer-facing one-pagers. So if you can find that like Swiss Army knife enablement person, sometimes it's easier to justify that headcount.
And that's hard for us to let go of a little bit because like as the early stage sales leader, you are that jack of all trades that everyone comes to for answers. And then you have to like let that go. And like it's the right thing to do, but sometimes you don't want to, but I totally agree with that point of like if you're doubling year over year, you're just going to burn yourself out.
Yeah. I mean, I also think it depends on how quickly your product is developing and how quickly like you are adding new features or new products to the offering. Because even if you have a fully ramped sales team, if you're like, just hammering out product updates and new features every single month, then that is like enablement that is going to have to happen time over time, month over month. And so I think that's where like someone like a product marketing person that can go between two functions of like product sales, like marketing, and be that like jack of all trades. That's where that's going to really help out a lot.
Love it. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit from hiring to process. So we've hired our first sales rep. What are some key processes that we really need to have in place? These are the have-to-haves, not the nice-to-haves. So we're still really early stage here. We're trying to figure out repeatability. So as far as, we probably don't have like a full-time RevOps person at this point. So a lot of it is like us figuring it out on our own from a process perspective. So Sam, I know you have some experience with this. what would you say are the top 2 to 3 things that at this stage you really need to have in place and are not nice to haves, but need to haves?
Yeah, I mean, I really think, figuring out both what your inbound and your outbound process is going to look like during this time. So, like, how early on do we hire SDRs that are like helping us with outbound and helping us go get leads versus having our sales team do it? At QuotaPath, we decided that that was something that we wanted to keep with the sales team. We're going to be an end-to-end like sales team. So we don't have an SDR team helping us out with that. And it's like, how do you decide what accounts you're reaching out to? And I think that goes back to figuring out really having a solid understanding of what your ideal customer profile is and like arming the team with this target list of accounts that they need to be reaching out to. And so that's how we're doing it today. We have a target account list for every single sales rep, and those are their accounts. There's a reap and replace model where if like you've worked an account to completion, you can replace it, and then you can be like granted another account to work. So that's on the outbound side of the house. And then on the inbound side of the house, really understanding, how are you going to work those leads as well? We used to be a full like having our sales team reach out to our inbound leads as well. And we found like if they're going to be doing outbound, they're not dedicating enough time as they need to our like MQLs and our PQLs. So we decided to hire a BDR team that is solely focused on if we have webinar leads or we have people signing up for free, like a free trial, like how do we convert those into actual opportunities? So we have a team that's now dedicated to just working those inbound lanes. And obviously, sometimes there's just demo requests that get routed. But basically, like having those two separate functionalities of the team, I think was key for QuotaPath early on and figuring out what our process will be for even getting leads into the company. Then from there, it's really a matter of like how do we forecast once we've done a demo, like how do we actually at what point does an opportunity become forecastable? So like you're working through the different stages in Salesforce. Like, do you look at opportunity stages? Do you look at forecast categories? Do you have like BANT or MEDIC or, whatever it is to decide how, at what point you qualify an opportunity. So I think, really figuring that process out early on is very important as well, because these are the numbers you're reporting to the board. This is like you're staking your claim on how well can I forecast. So I think that's like basically those 3 processes are key for early success.
So account ICP, figure out who you're going to go after, and then inbound process and outbound process. And a lot of times when you're early stage, the inbound leads aren't necessarily flowing like the salmon of Capistrano. Like you're going to have to find these accounts and tell them about the new market that you're educating them on. So
yeah, and you might still be getting folks signing up for free. Like if you have a PLG motion, like you might be getting folks that are signing up for free, but might not, necessarily be interested in paying. But how do you convert this, like where there is some interest, at least in your product? Like how can you convert these people to the point that they're ready to invest in your software?
And qualify them. They could be like Mallory.
Exactly.
That we're looking for the dating website, right? All these So that's interesting. I think that is a decision all of us have to make too, is on the outbound strategy. Do you have an SDR team that you build out, or do you have the AEs be full cycle? This wasn't something we had planned to talk about, but how do you guys think about deciding whether to build out an SDR team versus requiring the AEs to be full cycle? David, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely a lot of thoughts. I think, one depends on your target audience, right? Enterprise, probably a slightly different recommendation than mid-market or SMB, right? Depends on your velocity, how much you need to close, your average deal size, all that sort of stuff. I think, certainly for your first few hires, the expectation is full sales cycle, like no hard stop, right? Like it's got to be the expectation. And then I think once you start to get a handle on your volume, right? Like, so for my organization, right, we were very SMB companies, 2 million to 50 million. We had our channel partners that we swam in. And so we were 35 phone calls to a demo set and 60 phone calls to a demo that was qualified. We had all of our metrics down. So like once you start to understand and like using tools like Outreach and others that are going to allow you to simply track, or Salesforce to track that sort of information, so that way you can start to come up with your conclusions and make your recommendations.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got it.
I'd say my one piece of advice that I learned the hard way is, like David said, obviously your first hire should be full cycle. Once you do hire BDRs, still keep outbound prospecting metrics with your AEs. Because
100%.
I've taken this away and said, we got BDRs, you don't need to do any outbound. And then eventually you get to a point where you do want your AEs to do outbounding again, and they completely forget about outbound.
And they're resistant to it. They're like, wait, what? You told me I didn't have to do this.
Yes. Too slow.
We made the mistake of telling their first few hires, yeah, we're going to have BDRs and you won't have to. And they're still top performers of the organizations, but I still certainly hear about that probably once every 2. Man, I got to set meetings and I'm like, dude, that's what top reps do. They set their own opportunities. They build pipeline. Like, that's what everyone's got to do it.
We've all done it, and we all keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah, no, that's really, really good. As far as process though, anything else that, Mallory, any other thoughts as far as what do you have to have as far as processes in place for that first or second rep?
I would say, Sam, you were touching on this, is the inbound piece, which is so important. And, even if you're not getting much inbound, so I think it can be easy to say we're not getting much inbound, that process can be a little rickety. And time to first touch is so key.
Yes.
Nail that down. I don't care if you're getting one inbound a month, they should be called within 90 seconds of them reaching out, right? That's a pretty extreme stance I'm taking, but like have the processes in place to get that in. If it's more than 5 minutes, you've lost them. So get that time to first touchdown.
Yeah, I think that was a big Salesforce mantra back in the 90s, is something around like, less than 5 minutes, right? So they were the early adopters of that. This is kind of getting into the tech stack piece of it, but we're big fans of Chili Piper, which allows customers to book online immediately. So you get that first touch and you get the locked in. Sam's dog's a big fan of chili, or Mallory's dog's a big fan of Chili Piper too. So anyways, I totally agree with the time to first touch. So just to recap, figure out what your ICP is, make sure that it's very easy for inbound customers to buy from you and you're ready to answer their questions quickly. And then on the outbound piece, realize that everybody's going to have to outbound. It's a good muscle to have everyone capable of. And then as far as figuring out really where the responsibility should fall, it's complexity of the sales cycle and ultimately just how much time people have in the day. Love it. So let's jump into tech stack. So same question, back and do it all over again. What was, let's start with a more fun one. What was a tool that you implemented that you realized later, like, man, we really did not need that. Like, I wish I hadn't spent time implementing that. I'll go ahead with mine. So we implemented a tool that's actually really powerful. It's a forecasting tool called Clary. It's a great tool, but when you're early stage, you really don't need that. I mean, that's like, bringing a machine gun to a knife fight. And we just got excited about it. It looks like cool tech, but what we realized is like how reps were managing opportunities was so different from rep to rep that Clary was so confused, and it just like melted Clary's mind. So we ended up getting Atrium, which I think we're all familiar with and fans of. And Atrium really helped us figure out consistency and how we should manage deals, and why has this deal been stuck in the same stage for like 70 days? And before, we just weren't monitoring those kind of things. So if I could go back and do it again, I would have gotten a tool that helps us figure out the inputs to the sales process and not just focused on the outputs. We just got a little bit too focused on maybe a better forecasting tool will help us drive more results when really we should have keyed in on the inputs there. But I'll open this up to the group. Is there a tool that comes to mind where you're like, man, great tool, we just didn't need it that early?
I think consolidate wherever you can. So one thing that I know we did early at a previous company was we had like Intercom, HubSpot Chat, and Zendesk. One for support, one for BDRs, one for AEs, one for marketing is too much, right? All amazing tools stand alone, but we were too small. We didn't need all those. So anytime you can consolidate and make people work all in one platform, you lose so much context. You lose so much data when you're moving customers from one platform to another. So consolidate as much as you can, I guess, would be my advice.
So like in that example, Mallory, what would you have consolidated those to? Which one would you have consolidated to?
Oh, probably Zendesk. So Intercom is my favorite from a sales perspective, but just thinking about the whole business, like we needed a robust service tool, and Zendesk had a good enough functionality that sales could also use.
Totally. It's all about prioritizing. Love it. Any others that come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, we were similar to you, Will. We tried to implement at Trinkite. We used Insight Squared, which was a very powerful tool for us when our team was 100 plus. So with 2 or 3 reps, we brought on Insight Squared, and we just found out, like, I mean, it's almost too powerful for us at that point in the game. Like, we didn't need all of these, like, these analytics yet. We didn't need this like really powerful forecasting tool. Right. We were able to get it done in Salesforce. So yeah, I mean, I think, as we scale and we grow, like we might look into using it again, but we just didn't need it so early on.
Yeah, like the data is not really even meaningful when you're early stage.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And we didn't really know how to digest the data either. We're like, it's just kind of all over the place, and we didn't have a RevOps person at that time. So we're like, what does this even mean, really?
Yeah. But I get it. You're like, it worked at Trinkite. Why wouldn't we do it here?
Exactly. Right.
I totally get why you'd end up in that situation. What about you, David?
I've got a slightly hot take on this. So thankfully, of my many mistakes, tech stack was not one of them. I didn't sign up for Infusionsoft. That was before my time, so I can't take any claim for that. But if you are under, I would say, 5 people on your sales team, I do not think it's the right time for you to invest in Salesforce. Like Salesforce is a great solution and absolutely something that everyone needs. Mm-hmm. But there is so much that needs to be done to get it to a point where you've got really good reporting and you've got everything sliced out. And unless you have an ops person, it might be a little too much to handle in your first few employees. Not to say that hey, look, maybe once 5 to 10, sure, I can get behind it then. But for your first few, I think you should be using something that's going to give you a little bit more control to kind of manage your opportunities and your deal and the deals. I would much rather invest in an outreach or a sales loft for my first hire than a Salesforce, because I need to get that velocity. I need to get the traction. I need dials to be made. I need to start to get some templates to improve my processes and my sequences to kind of get out there. So that's my one slightly hot take.
Totally fair. I think it's a great point. So what would be your top 3, David? So you said sales loft would be a have to have, or outreach. What are your other 2?
So it's funny, and my company knows this. I'm a super big believer in outreach. I love the company to death. Yeah. I think they have a great product. I implemented them at my previous at Surefire, and we had it here. That was also part of the reason why I came, is because they had such a great tech stack. I obviously, shameless plug, right? Data, you need contact data. So you need intel. I will say I have used ZoomInfo and I have used Seamless and others in the past. The one thing that I would encourage everyone is make sure that you are validating the data before you send it out. My previous org, we went through 5 domains because we would send information out and we got a bounce back, or we got blacklisted from someone's email. So I really encourage you guys. Like, I see a lot of sales team, like one of my guys, 800 plus emails a week. I'm like, pump the brakes, man. Like, I appreciate it, but like, let's tone that down a little bit.
The spam filters are like next level right now. They're really cracking down this year. I see people going through all the time.
Aggressive, absolutely. And my third would be like a conversation tool, like Gong or Chorus. I think Wingman's another one that's new in the space. I also really like PandaDoc, although I don't know that that's necessarily something that you need that early on. But I think conversation, sequencing, data, that's essential for your first employees.
Yep. Preach. Solid. What about you, Sam? What would be your top 3 have-to-haves?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with the call recording software and the call coaching. We use Chorus, and it's been great. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm a big advocate of recording everything. Like, everything needs to be recorded. Everything needs to be documented. If you have a customer that's upset for some reason, you can go back and listen to the call, find out who's really at fault there. But yeah, definitely the call recording, call coaching. So I'd say, Chorus, Gong, something of that nature. For sure, outreach tool. We use SalesLoft. We love SalesLoft. And then, yeah, I mean, I would say like a CRM. Like we use Salesforce, but we have a lot of our customers that are smaller, less than 5 reps, maybe less than 10 reps that are using HubSpot today, and love HubSpot. It's a much more like a affordable option, still has all of the basic things that you need to do in a CRM. So those would be my top 3.
Totally. That goes back to the hiring and enablement. Like, if you record everything, it makes all those future hires so much easier, as opposed to just repeating yourself. Help your future self by recording as much as possible. Mallory, what about you? Anything that you'd change as far as those top 3?
None that David and Sam didn't say, so I'm in agreement there. Yeah.
Yep. Love it. So I guess we're all going to buy Sales Intel.
All right. I like it.
Oh, yeah. This has been a good day for you, David.
That's right. I just made Q4.
Yeah, exactly. Congratulations. I love it. Okay, so last question is just thinking about scaling, right? So on the topic of helping out our future selves, we talked about the idea of record as much as possible, document as much as possible. Is there anything else that you guys would add to where, if you were an early stage sales leader, had you done, or maybe you did do X and it really was the game changer for you to be able to scale your sales team?
So I'm going to kind of answer 2 questions in this. Well, I'll answer your question, but it actually has a lot to do. I see, Angelica, you put a question in the chat, and to me, they're so tied together. So how do you scale is by not burning yourself out, right? I think there's like lots of tactical ways to scale, but like philosophically, you cannot burn yourself out. And to me, this meant like setting very clear boundaries as an early sales leader, as an early sales hire. It is so easy for work to become your life. It's probably all happened to us at some point. And so I've learned throughout the years that help yourself understand, like, what are you hoping to get out of this opportunity? How does that align with what your company is hoping to get? And then what are some boundaries you can make? And right, you're not going to be able to work 9 to 5 as an early sales hire. You're going to be working much longer hours than that. But what are some non-negotiables you have, right? Is it, I have dinner with my family every night? Is it, I don't look at emails on Saturdays, right? Like, set those and communicate those. I found that this is so key. No one can respect them if they don't know them. So how you show up for your company, how you scale your company is by really communicating those. And it also inspires others to do the same. I think it just takes one person to talk about it. And I remember so many of the CEOs I've worked for have been so clear about what their boundaries are, and that's allowed them to scale, because the journey as a CEO founder is honestly not one I want to undertake anytime. Right. And so seeing them be able to say, this is how I want to scale my company and this is how we can all do it, it has to be sustainable. Like, sustainability, that's huge, and that's the only way you can scale.
Wow. Well, so I'm glad you brought that up. I appreciate that. one of the things that you can do on your iPhone is set a downtime schedule where like from 6 to 7:30, your phone basically goes from smartphone to dumb phone. And that's been like super crucial for me for that work-life balance piece. So great point. And we could do a whole nother session on how do you maintain the relationship with your CEO, by the way, if you're directly reporting. That's a whole nother webinar. That's for next year. David, Sam, anything you guys would add as far as how do you set yourself up for success scale wise? We'll probably do this last one and wrap it up.
David, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think just like all of the things we've been talking about, hiring like that first sales hire, having the right sales processes in place. And then really like, I think understanding the demand for your product, like if there is like a seasonality aspect to it, like if there, like understanding when it makes sense to hire people. So not just having a hiring plan for the sake of saying, oh, we want to hire 6, 7 people, every month, but really like making sure that those hires and that headcount makes sense based on trends that you've seen in the past. And that can be hard, especially in your first year of being a business, because you don't really know and you're forecasting a lot. But I've seen companies making the mistake of hiring too many too fast, and then ultimately having to have layoffs or let people go. And just making sure that you're hiring smartly.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yep.
Definitely agree with that. That was absolutely one of the mistakes that was made on my department is over hiring based on the demand. And then, you got to kind of help try and manufacture that, which is really tough. So I agree. I think that documenting is so incredibly important. Recording, I think those are really, really important. And to Mallory's point, in terms of setting boundaries, that's admittedly something I haven't done super great, except for Tuesday night date nights. But that's something my wife constantly gets on me is, when you're early stage, right, you got to grind. It's a lot of hard work, and it's early mornings and late nights. And so I think to your point, it's really good to make sure that you outline those boundaries so you don't burn yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, love it. Well, that's all we got. To all those early stage sales leaders out there, we see you. We love you. We've been there, and like there's so much empathy in this virtual room for you right now as you take on this journey. It's so fun, and yet it's incredibly challenging at the same time. And that's kind of why we get sucked back in, right? Like I'm sure all 4 of us on this call are probably going to get sucked back into the next one pretty soon. And anyways, so best of luck to everyone in their early stage head of sales journey. And let us know if any of us can help out. That's why we're here today, is to share the love and help everyone not make the same mistakes we did. So thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Will.
Guys.
You are an amazing moderator, Will. Thank you very much for joining us. And speakers, Samantha, David, and Mallory, fantastic knowledge today. Thank you for your time and thank you for joining us. I'm pretty sure our audience really liked all the knowledge that you share and the key takeaways. And audience, please stick around. We have 2 more sessions to go. The next one is Bang the Gong, New Category Dominance, Sales Tech Futures, and more with the CPO of Gong. That's going to be fantastic. If I were you, I wouldn't miss it. While the speakers here and I hang out backstage, the MSP team will make sure that you can access the recording on the MSP website, and you also will receive a follow-up email with the recording and some key takeaways from them. So thank you for joining us. David saying feel free to message him on LinkedIn. So you have the links right there in the chat. So click on the LinkedIn and connect with them. Panelists, we can go backstage.